Hey Franken friends, Greg Smith aka Dr. Frankentosh, and today I have a slightly different video. I'm going to show you how I keep track of the 200 or more subscriptions that I have on YouTube. So what I've been doing is downloading them and then stripping out the audio, sending them to an S3 bucket and creating my own personal podcast. So let's check out how I do that right after this on Dr. Frankentosh. Okay, so here we are in my YouTube subscription list. As you can see, there's a wide cast of characters here, and I have over 200 folks that I'm following. And at any point in time, I may have dozens of things that I want to look at. And it's hard, and sometimes I want to do this while I'm driving, but I can't do it while I'm driving because I'm not watching YouTube while I'm on the road. So it would be really cool if I could somehow transcribe these into audio and then play them as a podcast on my iPhone. The way this looks when I'm done, so here you can see my Apple podcast list, and here are my podcasts. And I can click resume, and
32 to 64K. I like this.
And there's one of the YouTube videos that I like to watch, only it's all audio. And when I get in my car, I can play this on my iPhone through CarPlay and what have you. So let's take a quick look at how I actually get this done. So the first step is to go to take out Google.com, and this is where you can get all of the data that's associated with your Google accounts. Now we're only interested in our YouTube content, so I'm going to deselect all and then search for YouTube because there's tons of stuff here. Here we go. And I'm going to click that and click next step. And then export once to a zip file no larger than 2 gigabytes and create our export. And when it's done, it will send us an email letting us know that it's complete. You can see here that our export is in progress, and we should be getting an email any moment now. And when it's ready, we can click the download button, and it shows up as a zip file in our downloads folder, YouTube and music, subscriptions, and there's a subscriptions.csv. And we can drag this. So let's take a look at what that file looks like. So we've downloaded our CSV, and as you can see, I've got over 200 here. And the first column is the YouTube channel identifier, then a URL to the YouTube channel, and then the last element is the name of the YouTube channel. So to make my life easier, I created a series of scripts that will read this CSV file, download our YouTube videos, and then extract the audio, throw them into a folder, throw them up to an S3 bucket, create an RSS.xml file, and then channel that over to Apple Podcasts, and I've got my own personal podcast of my favorite YouTubers. So let's take a look at what we're going to do to make that happen. So first off, everything you're going to need is in my GitHub at YTDLPFun. We're going to be using this open source project called YTDLP. As you can see here, it is a feature-rich command line audio video downloader. I'm not going to go into the details of it, how this works or how to install it. Those are in my README file. So let's go over to my code, and here you can find the subscriptions.csv that we just downloaded. And there are tons of stuff in here. I'm going to prune this down to just 2 or 3 so that we can just have some examples to work with. Okay, I've successfully pruned my subscriptions CSV down to just 3 of my favorite. Let's take a quick look at the download script. So as you can see here, we're using Poetry as the package manager. It runs Python, and when we run YTDLP, we're specifying that we only want files that are between now and 7 days ago. We don't want to overwrite anything, and we also want to get files that are less than some threshold. I've got a variables.env file here, which has all of my special values in it, and one of them is our duration threshold of 3,600 seconds. So nothing over an hour. Now let's go ahead and take a look at it in action. Let's start running this. We'll go to our podcast folder, which is going to be Dr. Frankentosh copy, and we run YT download. So here it's getting our video from Great Scott, and you can see over here it's created a folder for Great Scott under the videos folder, and it's grabbing that video, and in a matter of seconds it will be complete. Now you can also see here that it updated an archive.txt file. Every time it downloads a video, it records it so we don't get it twice. Now we're getting one from Level 2 Jeff. And lastly, we're getting one from iFixit. So you can see here, there's Great Scott about to tell us about his video. Now, I don't want these videos to make their way to my podcast. I'm not going to be able to watch them while I'm on the road. So the next step is to extract out the audio. We have a script for that called Split Audios. And the majority of that work is handled by a project called FFmpeg, as you can see here. And FFmpeg does all manner of things with MPEG type files. So FFmpeg is a powerful open source multimedia framework. You can use it for processing video and audio and other multimedia files and streams. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. You can record and convert, stream, and manipulate multimedia content. And it supports all kinds of file formats. Here you can see my audios. There's our Level 2 audio. There's our Fixit audio and our Great Scott audio. Fantastic. Now, we have these 3 files. We can run them.
Here's the magic trick. When I point this thing here directly towards you.
There you go. So that's the latest Great Scott audio. Now, we want to get these files up to our S3 bucket. Now, at AWS, if you have an Amazon account, you have an AWS account, and you have free access to such things as file storage in the cloud. And it's basically free for a certain period of time and for certain other limitations. But once it's up there, it's also quite cheap to get access to. The other thing you can do with an AWS bucket, an S3 bucket is where you store, it's basically a hard drive in the cloud, is you can tell it to act like a web server. So all the files that you put up there can be accessed as if it was a static web server. So I'm going to dump all these files up onto AWS, and then I'm going to access it like it was a web server. Now, the bulk of the work performed to get the files up to our AWS S3 bucket is the AWS CLI. And in this case, we're going to be using the AWS S3CP command, and we specify the file that we want to send and where we want to send it. So let's go ahead and run our upload command. First is sending our artwork up, and then each of our audio files. And if you notice here, my artwork JPEG is my classic Dr. Frankentosh apple. So our files are now up on the AWS bucket. Let's go take a look. So we're here in our S3 bucket. I want to show you a couple things. The first thing is the properties. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see that it's set up for static website hosting. I've got it enabled. You'll need to do this so that you can treat your S3 bucket like it was a static website. And then over here on permissions, you've got to set up a bucket policy that allows all of your files to be read. Otherwise, these files are all locked down and nobody can see them. Now let's take a look at our files. So here's our test folder. So now in our test folder, you can see we have our artwork and we have our 3 podcast files. So the hard part is now done. This stuff is now served on the web so that we can get at it from anywhere that we have the internet. So the next step is to create an rss.xml file. Now RSS is a way that we distribute our podcasts. And to do that, we're going to run our upload RSS script. Let's just run that. Upload RSS. It generates the RSS file and then uploads it to S3. And if we refresh, we can see our rss.xml. Now each one of these files inside of S3 has its own unique URL. If you click on it, it'll actually show the file on the screen. I'm not going to go into the details of RSS, but what you can see here is that there is a URL for each of these files. So let's now take a look at what the rss.xml looks like. And it is a mass of information with XML. Here's the name of the podcast, here's the description, and here's the URL to our podcast. And then down here, you can see our first entry, which is Level 2 Jeff, and how he accidentally destroyed his web server. Now again, these files are all personal to me. I'm not sharing them for everyone on the internet. They're just for me to listen to. When I'm done listening to them, I'm going to be deleting them. Okay, so I can grab this URL to the rss.xml, which has a list of all of the files that we just uploaded. I can go to my podcasts, follow a show by URL, add it, and then follow. And so now you can see our personal podcast. Here's our Great Scott video, our iFixit video, and our Level 2 Jeff. And you can see how many minutes are left. And we can enjoy this as we like. And this will show up on all of my Apple devices. So I know I went through this really fast. The intent here is not to educate you on how to do this, but rather that it's possible. I've solved all these problems. They're up in my GitHub. You're welcome to take a look and see if you can use it. The big takeaway here is that if you want your own personal podcast, you can create one. You can put anything in it you want. I just happen to want to be able to listen to my YouTube videos wherever I go. So, thanks again for watching. I know your time's precious, and thank you again so much for spending part of it with me. But gosh, don't like my channel. Don't click up there or down there. Don't subscribe to my other channels. And I'll see you next time on Dr. Frankentosh.